Welcome to the Your Money Hour podcast. I am Dakota Grady, your host. Today, I'm excited about having a guest on the show, our good friend Joshua Grady. He is a National Football League, that's right, NFL agent, also the owner of Grady Sports Agency out of Nashville, Tennessee. Welcome, Joshua.
What's good, Dakota? Glad to be on here. Excited, chop it up, discuss, get into some nitty gritty. But glad to be here for sure.
Yes, sir. So tell us how you got into the league and just your background, a little about who you are.
Okay, so I try to keep it short because I can ramble. But I'm originally from Tampa, Florida. I grew up playing football. I got my undergrad degree from Vanderbilt University here in Nashville. Playing football there in economics. Got my master's from the University of Florida in sports management. And there's a man named Eugene Parker, and Eugene was really the first and most prominent African-American agent that there's ever been. Eugene was good friends with my dad, and, he represented Deion Sanders, amongst others, and just really doing it out here. And I ended up going to the draft with him in 2015, and it really just showed me, like, that's a possibility. I didn't know really what being an agent was at the time. I didn't have really an idea, but going to the draft, it really just showed me like, oh, okay, like that might be something that I want to pursue. And so after I got my master's, I just took the agent exam. Really didn't know what it was to be an agent. Um, it was just like, all right, it's got something to do with football, so let me go that route. And it was really like my dad just kind of saw certain things in me that was like, okay, you can potentially do this. And so, again, to keep a long story short, took the exam in 2016. At that point, I was the youngest, agent in the country at the time, really didn't know what I was doing. I was working with this marketing firm who I just really didn't enjoy, having a boss, to be honest with you. But then I also realized a lot more could be done for these players, in regards to educating them, in regards to providing resources to them, to really, growing these players as young men, like that's important. And to be able to do that, man, like it's a blessing. We've been in now 4 years. We've had a draft pick every year. God definitely just provided blessings in this field. And, just trying to put some things together. But, I love it. So, I got a wife, Lydia. Shout out Liz. She's amazing. We've been married a little bit over a year. We have a son, Roman, who's about to be 4 months, so that's who I am. I would say in a nutshell, low key and just trying to provide wisdom to the world, really. So glad to be here, man, for sure.
Wow, unpacked a lot there. So you played sports when you were in high school?
Yeah, so shout out my high school, Armwood High School. Okay, I actually went to two high schools. The first one was named Freedom, but I ended up transferring from there. I was getting into just some trouble. But I ended up going to school named Armwood, and Armwood really was like probably it's probably still a top five, high school football program in the state of Florida. At certain points, my senior year, we were actually ranked top five in the country my senior year. So like we were nice, but it wasn't like I was, solid, but we just had a lot of talent around us, and a lot of guys like we put guys in the NFL, you know what I mean? And so just growing up playing ball, seeing, okay, like football really can't take you places. You know what I mean? Like you got these guys that, really because they went to our high school, they end up, whether it's D1, D2, D3, going to college for free. You know what I
Wow.
mean? But that's, so, but to answer your question, yes, I did play ball. I started playing since I was 7 and then just, continue up until college.
And what position did you play?
So I played a little in college. I played a little bit of receiver and quarterback. I came in as a quarterback. I was a quarterback in high school, so I played a little bit of both. Played special teams. So really just I wasn't necessarily the best athlete, anything of that nature. Just did what I was asked to do. Uh, it's just definitely blessed to have. It's crazy, like you can really play a sport and get paid to go to school. you know, and even like I'm learning now, I didn't know it at the time, but you know, obviously we talk about finances, you know, when you talk about being able to go to college and not have to pay for school, you know, to be able to graduate, me and my wife, no student loan debt, you don't realize it at the time, but man, like that's a big blessing, you know. You're able to look around now and I see, you know, some of my friends, peers that had to pay for school and you got 50, 70, 100K in debt, like that's mind boggling to me, you know. So definitely a blessing for sure. Like, because you know, my wife plays soccer, so it's a lot of things that added up for us. You know, I've benefited. So
Wow, that's awesome to come out of school debt free. That's
it's a
amazing.
blessing, man.
Congrats to you and Lydia. So with the sports agency, how did you get that started? And what were some of the challenges
Mm.
you had to get into the league?
So basically, so in 2016, so okay, backtrack. The plan for me when I was going to become an agent was to work for Eugene. Okay, that was like where the plan was. Again, he was good friends with my dad. And the plan was Eugene was going to mentor me, you know, teach me, and I was going to work for him. He had a company at the time called Relativity Sports that, you know, they were just awesome. Like he did things the right way. But unfortunately, in 2016, Eugene passed away,
Mm.
and when he passed away, his company, you know, disbanded, and I ended up working for just a partner of his about for 6 to 8 months, and we did some, you know, some decent work. But I just realized again, like one, I didn't like having a boss. I didn't like having someone telling me like, okay, we should do this or shouldn't do that, even because I'm like, this is what I think is best for us. We won't get in too far into that, but that's one. And two, again, I just realized so much more could be done for these players from the marketing side, from teaching them. Just there's so much that can be provided to them that wasn't being done, and I'm like, why not? I don't understand. Like it hasn't made sense to me. Um, but in short, you know, we started our own company. Me and my dad were driving to Tallahassee, and this was in October of 2017. And we were just talking. We were like, why not just start our own agency? Like, why don't we just do that? You know? And I was like, what? I didn't know what that was going to look like. But, you know, since then, we just kind of been putting one foot in front of the other. We've definitely been blessed by, you know, God putting certain relationships. You know, we talk about my high school. You know, I went to Armwood. We've signed out of 9 clients that we've signed, 3 have been from my high school, you know. And so it's like certain things that just add up that, you know, it was just like, okay, this is why I know God was like, this is what you're supposed to be doing, you know. So that's really how we got to where we're at right now.
So you saw a need in the industry and you wanted to make that change, be a trailblazer, sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, the thing, like, I listened to a podcast a while ago. I don't know who said it, but I know what was said. And it was like in I think it was some person went up to Usher, I want to say, but I could be wrong. And it was like a young up and coming singer, and I think they had said to Usher, and it could have been somebody else, but they had said something like, you know, I'm just trying to feel. I think maybe they said I'm trying to fill the outcast role or something like that. And then whoever they were talking to responded and basically was saying, like, you don't need to fill their role. You need to fill the void that you bring to the table. Like for the agent game, like I need to fill the Joshua Grady void. You know what I mean? And when we can look at our career, like, okay, there's a void somewhere that I can now step into, you know, because then it becomes something where like I think it might have been Earl Nightingale in The Stranger's Secret, you know, and he said he was like, you know, in life you don't have to compete. All you have to do is create, you know, and that's really what it was like, oh man, like I don't have to compete with these other agencies out here. You know what I mean? It's like so, but it's a whole lot we can get into that. But you know, just trying to do the right thing out here, you know, for these players. You know, I come to realize, you know, for a lot of these guys, when you know you come from certain backgrounds, certain circumstances, you know, you've only been exposed to so much, right? And if you've never seen financial literacy, if you've never if you've never experienced, you know, how to love a woman, if you've never seen that, if you've never seen, a man, treat people well, or whatever it might be, you really have to, at least for me, I try to be that light to these, young men, and, teach them, like, you want to start a business? This is how we do it. You know what I mean? And try to help them get out of the rat race. Because I think you had said it, when you came on my podcast, was how, you can be an NFL player, you can win a lottery, but if you don't have certain skills, you're gonna be broke. And it's the same thing with football players. Like, you can be the fastest, you can be the biggest, you can have the best hands, all of that. And that can be great. You can get a whole bunch of bread for 10 years, but you got a whole bunch of life left after that. And if you're not using this time now, you know, I don't know, man. Just trying to help them plant the seeds.
Wow, that's something that really resonates with me as well. Coming from a low income family, now mom and dad struggling on welfare, wanting to have a better life. And if you don't know better, you won't do better. So let's talk about that for a moment. You have some of your guys in the league. I want to give you a chance to shout them out. But say they may get in the league, may have a big contract, and how do you, as their agent, guide them? Because I'm sure you know in the industry there may be guys who may be misleading their guys in terms of decisions, when it comes to money. What do you think that you can add to your guys as their agent?
So I think, for the main thing, what I try to be is a model, right? So literally, like, when you think about a model, like, okay, you can look at this here and be like, okay, I can follow this. Basically, that's what a model is, and try to be a model for these guys. Like, one, show them how I'm living. So whether that's with our finances, talk, like, having these conversations. We talk about, like, even your first car, your first house. Like, me and Sterling, shout out Sterling, he's in Atlanta. We're talking about, okay, do we want to rent? Do we want to buy? And I say we, it's him, but, just trying to be that sounding board, for these guys, and try to just provide truth and wisdom to them. Now, for certain clients, they might not need as much. They might not call me for certain things, but, certain guys, like a George, Scotty, we talk about whatever, and that's from top down. Like, that's the thing that I guess for anybody listening, when you talk about being an agent, a lot of people think that means, okay, you're doing these NFL contracts, and that's really it. It's all about working with the team, but the reality is there's so much more that should be involved. You know what I mean? Whether that's guiding them through the relationships. We talk relationships, we talk branding, we talk finances, we talk family, we talk more morality, God, whatever, being able to talk about and just about things that really are important. And so they realize, like, okay, like, I can come to him for whatever, so that's really where I think the value comes in, is in the relationships. I've really been able to forge these relationships with these young men, so that, I listened to something a while ago that this man said. It really stuck with me. He said, you don't have to be the guy, but you can be the guy behind the guy, and so whether that's, being the agent behind the player, whether that's being a financial coach behind the multimillionaire, whether that's, being the person that's on a setup team, at church, like, whatever. Like, if you be the guy behind the guy and you just serve God, there's ripple effects, with positive ramifications when we're willing to do that. So that's all, man.
So in terms of relationships, I think you had an interview with one of your guys about relationships. How important do you think relationships are in the league and in life in general?
Relationships are everything. Relationships are everything. When in like, I mean, I can go one by one if you want. Like, we just, look at me, as an agent. My first client, TJ Mutcherson. TJ, my god brother. I've known TJ since I was 7. We played Little League football together. He went to UCF. We signed him right out of school. No brainer. He signed right in my living room. First client, boom. Like right at the kitchen table. We ain't had no dinner. It was boom, straight, because we just knew. Second client was Leon McQuay. Leon McQuay's dad, Mr. McQuay, and my dad, good friends. And Leon went to my high school. I actually played with him my senior year. He was a sophomore. So it was just, okay, boom, natural relationship. The next year, Jordan Wilkins. Jordan Wilkins was running back out of Ole Miss, drafted by the Colts. Jordan's older brother, Trey, was my college roommate for 3 years at Vanderbilt, one of my best friends. So, boom, instant. Next year, Byron Coward. Byron went to Armwood. My dad is, like a father figure to Byron. He's from Tampa, so boom. Like it's not by accident, you know what I mean? That's why I try to, like my students that we have an Asian Academy, my students that I be telling them, like, I couldn't make this up. You know what I mean? Like, and then this last year, we ended up signing 5 guys. George Campbell. George played for my dad. My dad coaches 7-on-7 high school football. He played for my dad. I've known George since he was 15. Sterling Hoffritner that got drafted by the Falcons. Sterling went to my high school again, so there's that. Joey Magnifico, we talk about Jordan. So Jordan's older brother, Trey, married Ashley Magnifico. Her younger brother is Joey Magnifico. So, just, again, organic fit. Now, Scotty Washington. So I'm 4 years in now. This is my 4th draft class. And Scotty Washington was the first player that we signed that we didn't have previous relationships with. And that's 4 years in, So, and Scotty, I was introduced by a player that we did have relationships with who didn't sign with us, but he introduced us to Scotty, So that's how that happened. We ended up signing the 5th, Marcus Lewis, who I was introduced to by my college teammate. So it's just, I could go on and on about relationships because relationships, Coach Franklin always told us, and when we was in school, he said, it ain't about the grades you make. It's about the hands you shake. And like, that's the reality.
Can you repeat that, please?
Yes. So it's not about the grades you make. It's about the hands you shake.
Wow, that's
And he
awesome.
told us that. That's real. That's real.
It is. It is. And life is about connections. Think about the internet. What it is, it's a network. Same thing. Life is built on relationships.
Correct.
So for those who are in college, who want to be in the league, what do you say to those players? What advice can you give someone who maybe who's in college and they want to be in the league? What advice can you give to them in terms of marketing themselves, getting themselves ready physically, mentally, emotionally? What can you advise them on?
I would say one off the top is if you really want to, we'll talk strictly just from a football standpoint. If you really want to go to the NFL, like I saw this when I was at Vanderbilt. The guy that recruited me on my official visit was a guy named Jordan Matthews. Okay, Jordan from Huntsville, Alabama. Jordan was a guy. Look, I'll tell you, Jordan. So I'm coming from Armwood, like top 5 school in the country, right? And I'm thinking like Vandy. Vandy was not like before they recruited me. Before Coach Franklin got there, they went like 2-10. I'm like, I'm coming from a championship program. Y'all 2-10, but I end up going there. But on my official visit, like I was not thinking about going to Vanderbilt at all. Like that just, I was like 2-10. That's terrible. But I remember Jordan had messaged me on Facebook, like, hey, bro, I'm the one hosting you, such and such and such. Like, so excited, whatever. And I looked up his stats. And I'm like, they got me paired with this. Sorry, he had 2 touchdowns. I'm like, he don't even play. He was a freshman, but I was like, I came in like, what? Like, they got me with a scrub. Fast forward. So Jordan was my host, okay? Fast forward, me and Jordan ended up pledging together here at New Road, Tractor Cap Apasai at Vandy. Now best of friends. Okay, Jordan I remember after his junior, he had an awesome junior year, like awesome junior year. He did really well. He was contemplating leaving, going to the NFL, but he returned. And I remember I was at receiver too. We had trained a little bit at receiver, and I remember like doing our summer conditioning, our sprints, and everything, and I could tell he was just on another level. Like he had just kind of hit this next level of just, mentally, anytime we did anything, I was just thinking, me and Jimmy talked about it this morning. When we did 2 laps before all our morning workouts in the winter, he would always be first. You know what I mean? And that mindset was a mindset. Like, I didn't have that mindset at the time. Now, I totally, like, now if I went back to play college, I think I'll be mentally be like, okay, I can get right. But now I'm old, you know, so physically I don't think I'll be there. But mentally, I think I am now. But, you know, you really just got to have that mindset, you know, to really think. You got to think about it. You know, NFL, if you're going to the NFL, you're a professional. Like, when you're a professional, do you treat your sport like this is my job? Like if you're a professional, it's your job. Like, I'm a professional agent. This is my job. So I treat it as such, you know, and you have to flip that switch. Like, to me, there was never a time for me, football wise, where I was like, okay, I'm going to be a professional. Like, I was like, oh, I'm going to go to college. I want to get scholarship offers. But once I got to Vandy, I just never had that mindset. Like, and I think that limits your ceiling. But if you have the mindset, like, look, this is what I got to get to, then you really it starts mentally. Because there's a lot of guys that have it physically, but, you know, for one reason or another, they just don't put it together up top. And that's where it starts.
Mm. So you gave me a book. I think it's called $40 Million Slavery, I believe.
$40 million slaves.
Thank you,
Yes.
thank you. And this morning I read a little bit of it, and I read to the last chapter. The author talked about ownership, owning the teams, owning communication, and just owning things. So in the NFL, I don't know if there's any minority owners. So talk about that for a moment. Do you think that as players, they should be preparing to own a team? I mean, why go to the league and that's not your ultimate goal? Not just play the game. You have a short career, 2 or 3 years, but you're making millions of dollars. Should their goals be to own an NFL team or an NBA team or even an MLB team? Your thoughts?
That's a good question. So, you know, it's funny you say that. Recently, Patrick Mahomes it just was announced that he got ownership in the Kansas City Royals. You know, so it's just very, very timely that you say that. But I think for me, it's like, okay, I would love to see 3, 4, 5 NFL players come together and be like, all right, we're buying such and such team from such and such organization that is known they got some corruption, such as, I ain't gonna say no teams, but like the former Redskins. I know they're changing the name, but still the Washington football team. You know, it starts from the top. You know, that's the reality. And so for me to I don't know. I think the NFL is a lot further removed from that possibility. Now, when you talk about the NBA, if you get an alliance with a LeBron, with let's say a D Wade, you know, who's his good friend, with a Chris Paul, who's their friend. Maybe you get whoever, a Rich Paul, his agent, whoever, you know, that it's like you put the group together. It's a possibility. You know, I think Magic Johnson, he got a stake in the Dodgers. You know what I mean? Now, now that's one athlete, but if you get maybe there's 9, 10, 11 of them, it could be a reality. It's a lot of money, and I think it's a lot more. There'll have to be other individuals involved, that whether that's faces in the community, whether that's businessmen outside of just the athletes, to make it a reality. But I think it's possible for sure. I think, to me, ownership is everything. So
Wow, great. So before we wrap up, I want to give you an opportunity to share some last thoughts, nuggets, and also a shout out to Agent Talk Podcast. Check it out, my guys. Check it out. It's Joshua's podcast. Check it out. It
at
airs
Agent
weekly,
Talk
right?
on Instagram. At Agent Talk on Instagram. We're on Apple Podcasts. We're on Spotify Podcasts. Check it out.
And also, you can connect with Joshua. Go ahead, Joshua. You got the floor.
So, okay, what? The floor is just mine, huh?
It isn't.
Okay. So, I think sometimes about, if I could leave one message to the world, like what's that? What is that message that I want to leave to the world? And for me, I just want people to realize, like, being great is a possibility. Like, being great is it's a possibility. Like, it is very possible that your dreams can, come true. Like, your vision can actually happen, and I, like right now, so I actually got this for you. So I'm writing a book. So slight plug. Currently writing a book. I'm not sure the title, but I know it's gonna come out at some point next year, Lord willing. But really trying to let people know, like, that's why I like these talks. That's why I had a podcast. Is whether it's whether it's your money, So for anybody listening, slight plug for Dakota. Tap in, tune in. This man has wisdom when it comes to your finances. So whether that's you trying to save, you trying to get on a budget, you trying to get out of debt, like really tune in, tap in, because it's just like anything, whether it's your finances, your career, your marriage, your whatever. It can be great now. Like, your family can be great. Like, you know what I mean? So that's just my mission right now, is trying to let people know, like, it's possible, man.
Awesome. Well, thanks for your time, Joshua. Again, y'all, check out his podcast, Agent Talk. He also has a Tuesday. Is it Stock Tip Tuesday? Is that correct?
Yeah, so at Agent Talk, once again, yes, we have a Stock Tip Tuesday. Actually, our most recent Stock Tip Tuesday is featuring Dakota. Had him on there. Like, check it out. We up there, trying to get a rhythm. Maybe every other Tuesday coming out, we're talking about investing. We're talking, budgeting. We're talking retirement. We're talking certain businesses, the stock market, S&P 500, everything. It's open. I'm sure we'll get Dakota on there again, so tune in for sure. And we're on YouTube as well, Agent Talk Podcast.
Also, want to shout out his agency, GSA, Grady Sports Agency. Check it out online as well. He's also on Instagram. So again, thank you for your time, Joshua. This is the Your Money All podcast. Thank you all for having us.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you, Dakota.